Welcome, everybody, to another week of the Scholastic Sit Down. It's episode 4. My name is Dylan Ward. That's Luke Jordan. And as I say every week, we're both sitting down and ready to talk about the Scholastic Hockey League. Elephant in the room, we're coming to you a little bit later this week, but we'll get to review the game between New Trier and Lake Forest on Monday. And without getting too into it, Luke, because we'll save that for later, you were on the call for that one.
Yeah, it was really cool just getting to start what we're starting over there, kind of what you do with Glenbrook South, we're starting to do with New Trier. It's not going to be every game, but Trevian Hockey Network's going to be around for, the season. So I think it's just a win-win for everybody here in this league because you get more accessible online hockey games and getting to start with that one. I mean, if you're a Trevian fan, whatever, right? But overall, for the SHL and the state of the SHL and the competitiveness of the SHL, I mean, it was an entertaining game. So yeah, and secondly, um, this is my therapy today because you were there yesterday at the Cubs game. You got to see them win game one of the wild card. I went today on late notice and literally still in my jersey and everything, and didn't go how I wanted to. So trust me, this is not just entertainment for you guys. This is entertainment for me as well, just to get my mind off of what I just saw offensively. Talk about some real offenses. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding. I'm not
this is being
overreacting.
filmed on Wednesday, October 1st. So game 3 tomorrow. This episode should be out before that game starts. So yeah, for all the Cubs fans out there, we'll see what happens. But Luke, let's get into the Scholastic Hockey League. We've got 3 games to review. 2 took place last week, and then we'll talk about that game on Monday of this week since it's already passed. But first, let's start at Glacier Ice Arena in Vernon Hills. Carmel Catholic, it was their SHL home opener as they brought in the St. Viator Lions. And Luke, we had a team hit double digits for the second time of the SHL season, and it is still September. St. Viator with a 10-1 victory. 10-1 was the score after 2 periods of play. Neither team scored in the third, but boy, oh boy, the St. Viator Lions really took it to this Carmel Catholic side.
Yeah, I'm stunned. I mean, obviously St. Viator's the favorite, but with, Mason Stanley in net for Carmel, I thought it was going to be a bit more of a fight. But there's those types of games where no matter how good your goalie is, if a team like St. Viator is just picking you left and right and putting it where you aren't, not even like when the teams are unbalanced like that to start with, and St. Viator gets out to that type of jump, you could put in a AAA goalie, you could put in a juniors goalie. They're not going to be able to keep you in that game, and it's a tough spot to be put in for Carmel. And that it's now 19 goals allowed through their first 2 games. It's a rough start for them, but there's plenty to look at throughout the rest of the way. They're just getting their season started. I'm sure they've got some new lines gelling together. Got to give them some time, but definitely a rough start so far, Dylan.
Yeah, you could say that. Moving on to September 27th, that was Saturday, just the one game, the Stevenson Patriots at home against the Lake Forest Scouts, and already game number 5 for the Stevenson Patriots. And boy, did they need a win. They got one. Shots on goal were 30 to 30. The score was not even. Stevenson with a 6-3 win in this one. They score the first 3 goals and really never looked back as Jason Pashenko records a hat trick and included in that hat trick the game-winning goal in period number 2.
Not only that hat trick, but 2 assists as well. It's a 5-point game for Jason Pashenko. Very few 5-point games you'll see all season. Really impressive stuff from Stevenson. Shots on goal were even in this game. These two teams looked like they played each other pretty evenly, but as you mentioned, Stevenson getting out to that really hot start with Tomaszewski, Wu, and Pashenko all scoring before eventually Lake Forest answered back past halfway through the second. I think this is a rough showing for Lake Forest, but this is kind of a floor performance. They started backup Robert Krebs. He had a rough outing. Marsh came in, he let in one too, but overall for Stevenson, this is what you needed. You played so many early games in this season, and on your fifth one, you finally get your first win. Looks like you're starting to get things together, starting to get the offense together because we've mentioned how they haven't got many shots on goals in games, and getting on 30 here against the stout Lake Forest defense is really impressive. So Stevenson has shown they can compete, and we'll see what they do along the rest of the year.
And that brings us into the game on Monday night at the Alumni Memorial Fieldhouse. Lake Forest looking to bounce back after that loss against Stevenson. And Boy, Luke, did they. A 3-1 victory over New Trier Green, ending the Trevians' 10-game winning streak to start the year. That's in or out of SHL play to hand them their first loss of the season. The Trevians outshot the Scouts 27 to 16, but Lake Forest found 3 goals on those 16 shots and come away with a huge 2 points.
Yeah, this was crazy. I mean, seeing it firsthand and realizing that there is legitimate talent on like this is not like previous years. And I know that loss against Stevenson doesn't help their resume, but take it from somebody who's now gotten to watch them in person. This team is legit. I mean, Tommy Esplin, who came from the AAA Reapers program, which is no joke, by the way, looks great out there. And he's not one of those guys that just, oh, skates through everybody and scores, all that type of stuff. No, he's a playmaker. He's already got 5 assists this year on the side of 2 goals. I mean, he's known for his playmaking abilities. And alongside that, you have Michael Catalano, who was on the team last year. And to be honest with you, he's made some incredible offseason adjustments because he gets the puck and he just shoots in a line. He is a fast skater. He was making New Trier defenders look uncomfortable when he was coming in one on one. And I think Lake Forest has a really good top line. And then don't even get me started about Logan Marsh. Marsh is going to be one of the best goalies in the state this year. Seeing it firsthand, now granted, I don't think New Trier gave him the biggest challenge, but still, let alone stopping 26 out of 27 against arguably the top team in the state, such a statement. He played nearly the whole season last year on Lake Forest as a sophomore, comes in as a junior. He's got the experience. He's still got another year ahead of him, and he's looked really good so far. And on New Trier's end, I mean, if you talk to Adam Cheris, I'm sure he would say just not the game we wanted. I mean, they were they were outbodied. I mean, they were getting beaten in the physical game, which was rough. And then on top of that, they were getting good chances. I think they waited a little bit long on the shot sometimes. On top of, I think just getting through the neutral zone and entering the zone, breakout, all that stuff. The passes were usually just a little bit behind, and that's just something that's going to happen once in every couple games. So I think New Trier, obviously, this isn't their best showing either, but plenty of hockey along the way for them, of course. But yeah, first overall loss of the season for the Trevians. So I'm to the Trevian Hockey Network. I hope you don't think I'm a curse, and yeah, just keep me around, please.
Well, Luke, later on in the season we get into the standings segment, but I do just want to take a look at the standings right now. Something that's standing out to me is yes, we've had some lopsided games, but I mean, boy, it's pretty even in the Scholastic Hockey League. You look at, today's October 1st, just 3 teams without a loss and just 2 teams without a win. And not to mention, one of those teams is GBS, who still is yet to play their first SHL season game. So I mean, really, with teams already in progress, it's just 2 without a loss and 1 without a win. So early going, it looks like it's going to be a competitive table.
Oh yeah. I mean, you talk about how the only undefeated teams are 1-0 right now between York and Loyola. You can already tell by some of the results this year that it is going to be much more competitive. And I feel like, oh, Luke, you're a broken record. You say it's every year. Like I said last year is going to be really competitive and really even, but I want you to go and take a look at last year's opening season scores compared to this year's. There's even more diversity along this. I mean, there's more just spread out talent around this league, and it's gonna be fun to watch. I mean, I don't think a lot of people could just go into the season and say, "Oh yeah, Lake Forest is gonna beat New Trier in the first game of the season that they meet each other." Like that doesn't just happen without teams being very level.
All right, so it is time to look outside of the SHL, where I turn it over to my partner here, Luke. Luke, what do you got for us this week?
Well, starting off with our game of the week selection from last week. My bad for not picking the game of the week. It was not simply, it was a one-sided battle between Prep and Chicago North. Prep had home advantage and showed it. Through the first 2 periods, led 7-0 against the defending state semifinalists. Braden Anderson had a hat trick, and that's all she wrote. 8-2 final score. Prep wins that one. Now we look at the standings before we preview the next game of the week. In the North Central Division, Deerfield is at the top right now, 4-0-0. Chicago North is second, but they played 5 games with 3-2. Notre Dame, team to watch for, 2-0-1. Prep is 2-1 at fourth. And to round out the top five, it is the Ice Cats at a record of 1-3, but two overtime losses. So overtime losses were actually added to the league 2 years ago, or sorry, last year. So I did not get to experience it myself. Let's say I'm a little mad about that. Over in the Chicago Catholic Hockey League, what do you know? St. Ignatius is at the top, and behind them is Fenwick. Notre Dame's in third, but they're shockingly 1-3 so far, getting outscored in their games 28-9. And then to round out the top five, it's Brother Rice and then Providence. In the West Division, this has really taken a turn. Hinsdale Central, a team that is usually not been that good, is good right now. They are 3-0 at the top of the West. The Warriors 3-2 behind them. DuPage at third. Oswego at fourth. Naperville to round out the top five at fifth. And lastly, in the Metro Girls Hockey League, it is still in the tiering, and nobody had a record of 3-0 yet. Burlington Central's at the top 2-0-1. The one team that can threaten that is Glenbrook, who's 2-0-0, but they're at fifth. In between them, New Trier at second, Fenwick at third, York at fourth. That now brings me to my game of the week selection. And just with the spot in the standings and with the classic old rivalry, you can't go wrong with a good old Chicago Catholic battle. 6:20 p.m. on Sunday at the Arctic Championship rink. It is the Providence Catholic Celtics who will be hosting the Brother Rice Crusaders. Don't know really what to expect in this game yet. Haven't gotten a good look at the CCHL, but then again, these are two teams that go way back, two teams in the CCHL for a long time, and a rivalry that keeps on rolling here on Sunday. So that will be my game of the week. We'll check back next week. And for now, Dylan, let's preview the next week of SHL play.
All right, sounds good to me, and hopefully you get a little bit more of an entertaining game for your pick on Game of the Week.
Yes, yes.
All right, moving ahead to this week, week number 4 of Scholastic Hockey League action. Of course, on Monday night we had New Trier at Lake Forest, but in terms of future games, we start with Thursday, October 2nd, tomorrow at the time of recording this, tonight at the time you're seeing this, 7:20 p.m. The Carmel Catholic Corsairs are at home against the Lake Forest Scouts, and these are two teams who have certainly had an interesting first couple games to the season, Luke.
Yeah, Lake Forest has been very up and down. As we mentioned, they've lost to Stevenson, but then they went and beat New Trier. So they're kind of unpredictable at the moment. But as I said, seeing them in person, they have talent. They just have to go out and show it every game. And that was a really good statement they had on Monday. For Carmel, yeah, they're off to a rough start. You know, the loss to Loyola, the loss to St. Viator, 19 goals allowed over their first 2 games. This is your easiest opponent yet, and it's not even a technically bottom half of the SHL team. So for if you're Carmel, you got to shake those previous 2 games off of you. I'm not saying you have to win this game. Lake Forest is obviously favored, but if you can just get close, get your confidence back a little bit, and then roll into the rest of the season with a couple of easier opponents, you can start to pick up some momentum. So this one, I always say it in the early goings of the season. This is another one of those unpredictable games, and I honestly really don't know what could happen, Dylan.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I could really see it going either way, as you could say about a lot of games in the Scholastic Hockey League. But Luke, that moves us along to Friday night at Addison, 7:10 p.m. We have Glenbrook South as the last team to begin their regular season campaign as they go on the road against the York Dukes. And Luke, we've got an interesting coaching matchup in this. Longtime Glenbrook South head coach Jim Philbin goes up against newly appointed York head coach, but longtime coach of Glenbrook North. These two coaches kind of have that built-in rivalry with all that history as coaches of Glenbrook North and Glenbrook South, and now they get to match up again.
Oh yeah, I'm sure this game is going to be one of the series we're going to see on the SHL Game of the Week when SHL Network releases that schedule. I mean, it only makes sense, right? You got the former coach of GBN now with York. York is 1-0. They beat Stevenson 3-1. Don't know what to see what from them yet either because I mean, that's a small sample. Glenbrook South hasn't even played an SHL play yet, but obviously everybody knows that they're going to be pretty good. They got Blake Hoffer returning, Thomas Preston back. I mean, Glenbrook South is going to be a force to be reckoned with this season. They got to prove it.
All right, moving along to Saturday, two games on the slate, starting with St. Viator at home against Glenbrook North. That one is at 5 o'clock. And then later on in the evening, but not too much later, 6:20 p.m. down in Chicago, St. Ignatius will host the York Dukes, who will be playing on the second leg of a back-to-back.
Yeah, this GBN St. Viator game, definitely leaning towards St. Viator. Off to the start they've been. They've had that one rough loss to begin with, but other than that, their offense has been on fire. I mean, 6 goals a game on average, exactly 18 through their first three, and really everybody's contributing. Nobody with more than 6 points on St. Viator right now, and that's number 41, Matthew Siccioni, that leads the way. And mind you, they've scored 18 goals. I mean,
Right.
that just goes to show you how spread out it is for St. Viator. They've got every line that can compete. It's going to be tough to keep up with for Glenbrook North. And then looking at the other game on this Saturday between York and St. Ignatius, St. Ignatius has looked really good so far, but I also think York is a team that has a lot of high upside. Their defense looked really good in that first game against Stevenson. And yeah, another unpredictable one here. But I I would definitely expect some goals between York and St. Ignatius. I think both teams will kind of break out of their shell a little bit. And
Well, Luke,
hopefully I'm right, but
you're
sometimes I'm wrong.
You're foreshadowing what we still need to get into. But first, let's talk about the games on Sunday. A couple of early evening games. First, Lake Forest is at home at 5:15 as they welcome in Loyola Gold. And then later on at 6:10 p.m. back down in Chicago, St. Ignatius plays for the second night in a row against Glenbrook South, who will play for the second time in 3 nights on Sunday.
Yeah, this is a big test for Lake Forest. I mean, you get the win against New Trier, and now it's what else can you show us? Because it is a very long regular season. On Loyola's other end, I mean, they got Charlie Trapp, as I mentioned, a lot of returners. This is a game that I'd assume that you would too, and that I am going to completely avoid for our best offense of the week game. I mean, if there was a lowest
Yeah.
competition, I'm taking this one by a mile. Marsh and Trapp are going to put on a show, most likely so. And then besides that, Glenbrook North and St. Ignatius, that's going to be a fun one. Give me that as my game of the week, not as my highest scoring one yet. I haven't announced that, but game of the week, no doubt about it. Another unpredictable one early on in the season. And these are two teams with firepower offenses. We'll see how it goes.
All right, Luke, I like the pick for my game of the week. I got to go with Glenbrook North and St. Viator just because they met in the SHL semifinals last year. That series went 3 games, very exciting stuff, and I believe this will be their first matchup since then. But Luke, that brings us into our highest scoring game competition, which we really need an official name for, by the way. But we finally have some points on the board, as you can see down there. Luke predicted that the St. Viator versus Carmel game would be the highest scoring game, and that it was 11 goals in that one. So, Luke, how does it feel to be on the board, man?
Mm, could do better. I mean, I had two games to choose from, so it's kind of a coin flip. So I'm
Actually,
not going to
you
say
had
that
one
I'm.
game to choose from, right? Because I picked the
Oh,
other one
yeah,
first. Yeah.
exactly. Really, you
So,
just choose wrong. So
yeah,
I
right.
wouldn't say I feel too accomplished, but I feel a lot better and a lot more confident about getting another one right this week, and hopefully I'm right. I don't know.
Well, Luke, I'm host this week, and you know what that means? You get the dibs at first pick. So, what do you like out of this 6 game slate to be the highest scoring game?
I am gonna go with St. Viator and Glenbrook North. I think just seeing GBN and New Trier what was it, 2 weeks ago go to a 10-5 game, 15 total goals in that one. This will not go to that, I assume. But I think it's going to be the highest scoring game of the week. Two offenses that can really simply show it. I mean, obviously you got Calder Turpin for St. Viator, who's going to try to put up his best fight. And on GBN's end, it's tough because when you're playing an offense that good, even if you have a goaltending tandem that is solid, we've seen action from both Logan Spiegel and Ben Melnick. But I mean, this is not easy. It's not going to be an easy task. We've seen good goalies struggle with St. Viator in the past, so I'm just going to go with St. Viator and GBN. That's obviously not meant to be a diss to anybody. I just think there's going to be a lot of offense in that one.
All right, well, Luke, you took that one. I'm gonna go ahead and take a note from your playbook as and pick a game that you said just moments ago would have a lot of goals. the York Dukes and the St. Ignatius Wolfpack. This is, two teams. Yeah, it was a couple of years ago, but they're meeting for when York beat them to go to the state championship. That was a very emotional game. And a couple of guys still on the squads from that time. I just think, it seems like from some of the hype I've seen on social media that this game is going to have a big crowd. I think there's going to be a lot of intensity and energy in the rink. And I think we're going to see a lot of pucks at the back of the net in this one.
Yeah, that'd be my second choice for sure.
Yeah, so there's my pick. Let's see if I can tie this thing up. And just to remind you, if either one of us predicts the highest scoring game, it's a full point. If either of us predicts what ends up being tied for the highest scoring game with any other game, it's half a point. So there you have it. And that'll bring us into our final segment of the night. All right, and just like that, it's a quick episode this week that takes us into our final segment, question of the week and trivia. And Luke, let's start with the trivia question from last week. It was before this season, how many teams had scored 10 goals in a single SHL game? Well, that answer has already changed since we last talked on here. The correct answer was New Trier beat Fenwick 10-0 last season, and Glenbrook South beat Carmel Catholic 10-2. 2 years before that. But now we just saw St. Viator score 10 goals in their most recent game. And this is in the post-COVID era of the SHL. But Luke, really just not many 10 goal outbursts. And that just goes to show you, especially at a level like high school hockey, where you might see that a little more often than you would in like say the NHL, to have that few is quite indicative of how balanced this league is.
I was gonna say it's about how level this league is. You don't see it often, and I think when you tend to see it often is usually earlier in the season. Like now, look at now, we've already got two 10 goal games. I think if you put a knife right here and let it go beyond, I don't think you're gonna see another two 10 goal games. I mean, I might be wrong. I'm probably wrong just because I'm usually wrong, but like that's how I feel, and I I think these defenses will start to stagger up, collect better chemistry, just like the offense will. But I don't think we'll see many more 10 goal games at least.
Well, we will see. A long season awaits us. That brings us into this week. Starting off with question of the week, it's pretty down the middle, Luke. Besides hockey, what is your favorite sport? And you can take that however you want, to play, to watch, just in general. What is your answer?
I think uh, when somebody asks me what my second favorite sport is, I tend to say lacrosse. I started playing lacrosse third grade. It's a very versatile sport with hockey. A lot of the hockey guys go on to play it. I don't know what the correlation is there, but it just happens. And it's also a sport that I really enjoy watching. Like I thank God every day for my ESPN Plus subscription because I get to watch so much college lacrosse in the spring and just even learn more about the game. It's something that I'd love to go in and announce one day and be like announcing in college lacrosse or maybe even in pro lacrosse. It's just so much fun to watch. You get that physicality, you get fast shots, you get set piece plays that work, but it's not in a sport like basketball, which I love basketball, but where you're always running set plays and it's always around a formation, all that stuff. I like how lacrosse you can just attack the net and yeah, I mean, it's just fun to play too. I love watching really every sport, but lacrosse is so much fun to play.
I would be in agreement with you, how I enjoy watching every sport. I'm actually going to come at you with something that I don't know might surprise you, Luke. You might not know how big of a fan of this
I've got
sport I am.
two sports in my mind right now. Let's see.
Okay. Well, the answer is going to be football, and not American football, but
I knew it.
soccer,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course.
I thought you were
Uh,
gonna say baseball, and then you said that, and then you threw that curveball, and then I was like, wait, maybe he's talking about soccer.
yeah, I
No,
love
football.
baseball. It's got to be third, but for me, soccer, I'm a big soccer fan. If there's any Premier League fans out there, I'm a massive Everton fan, have been for about 10 years or so. But for me, I love hockey. It's what I kind of grew up watching and being a fan of. And I think that there's something similar enough to soccer that I just really like it. I like the fact that it's just you can only score one way. Put the ball in the net, right? Just like hockey, and it's 1 point. And then you get those moments of goals. There's not there are buildups, of course, but there's not necessarily like say like putting guys on base in baseball or a drive in football where you're slowly like building towards a score. I like that
Yeah.
they kind of just spawn into the game randomly, for lack of a better term, and it just makes it really exciting to watch. And there's something special about the running clock too. I can't really explain it. I like that it's real time, so to speak. When you sit down to watch a game, you know when it's going to start, you know when it's going to end. But yeah, I'm a big soccer fan, and Luke, I couldn't be more excited for the World Cup here in the U.S. next summer.
That's gonna be awesome. And yeah, no, you make a great point about the real time and just it's just so nice getting to watch a sport that you can sit down and watch for 45 plus minutes without any advertisements.
Oh,
Because
I can't
I
believe I
mean,
forgot to mention that.
yeah, I mean, I love college football and I go to college football games. I was just at Iowa, Indiana this past weekend. I'm going to go back to Iowa for Iowa Penn State. And I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it's like punt. All right, now let's put up a 3 minute TV timeout. So I
Yep.
just sit there on my phone and talk to my buddies, and it's like, okay, let's go. And then it happens again. Then it happens again. So yeah, interruptions not existent really in soccer, and that's one of the things I love about it for sure.
Yeah, you don't got to tell me about that, man. So, to wrap it up, we're going to go into our trivia question this week. And guys, come on, comment section's right there staring you in the face. We didn't get any responses to our trivia last week with the 10 goal game. So here it is. Lake Forest just beat New Trier 3-1 this week. When was the last time New Trier, or pardon me, when was the last time Lake Forest beat New Trier in an SHL game, whether that's regular season or playoffs? When was the last time that happened? And you might have to dig a little deep for this one. But without further ado, that's going to do it for episode number 4 of the Scholastic Sit Down. Again, coming to you on a Thursday. We'll be right back at you next week on Tuesday. But Luke Jordan, any final words?
Thanks for your patience. Definitely been a busy week for both of us, but yeah, we'll be back on cue next week. So appreciate your loyalty, guys.
We'll be back with our special guest, of course. So that's Luke Jordan. I'm Dylan Ward saying thank you for hanging out with us here on the Scholastic Sit Down. We'll see you again soon. Enjoy the week of hockey.